It was the storm that woke me. Not the thunder itself, but the hollow, rattling groan of trees bending under the wind like tortured bones. My bedroom window clattered in its frame, rain tracing frantic patterns across the glass, as though it were trying to etch something urgent into it. I rolled over, squinting at the faint red glow of the clock. 3:17 a.m. The forest was alive outside my house. Branches scraped together in agonized whispers. Gusts of wind roared through the tree line, and somewhere out there a tree finally surrendered, cracking like a gunshot as it toppled. I lay still, holding my breath, waiting for the silence to return, but it didn't. The storm raged until morning. When the light finally bled through my blinds, it was a pale, exhausted kind of day. I made coffee, still half asleep, and stepped out onto my back porch to inspect the damage. The air smelled of wet earth and ozone. My yard was littered with leaves, a downed gutter, and shredded debris from the storm. But my attention drifted, as it always did, to the forest. I'd grown up next to those woods. It was a jagged stretch of wilderness that bordered the edge of our quiet suburban town, dense and unkempt. I knew its shape from memory. The skeletal pines, the way the ground sloped sharply downward just a few feet in, the little streams and animal trails. I used to explore it as a kid with my brother, Evan, before he... I cut that thought off quickly. Something was different this morning. I stepped closer, mug in hand, scanning the tree line. At first, I thought the storm had felled another tree, but the shape didn't fit. There was something standing upright at the edge of the forest, just far enough back that the shadows clung to it. I set my coffee down and climbed the soft, rain-soaked ground. As I pushed past the first curtain of trees, the smell of moss and wet bark hit me hard. The object came into focus, and my stomach turned cold. It was a door, a tall, black wooden door. It wasn't attached to anything. No wall, no frame, no sign of foundation. It stood freely, anchored into the soil as if the forest itself had decided to grow it overnight. The paint was glossy, untouched by the storm, and the brass handle gleamed in the weak sunlight. I circled it once, running my hand along the wood. It was solid, cold. From the other side, it was just as real. My rational brain struggled to process what I was seeing. Someone had to have put it here, but why? And when? I pushed gently, half expecting it to fall over. It didn't budge. My pulse quickened. There was something carved into the door near the top. I had to stand on my toes to read it. 4 letters, roughly etched, the grooves blacker than the rest of the wood. E.H. My breath caught. Those were Evan's initials, my brother's. A shiver shot through me, a memory of his voice rising from the past. Don't go too deep into the woods, you'll get lost. They'll keep you. He used to say things like that when we were kids, half joking, half believing. I crouched down, peering underneath the door. The ground continued on the other side. Same grass, same forest floor. But the light seemed wrong, too pale, like it was filtering through deep water. I straightened up, heart thudding. I told myself to go back to the house, call someone, anyone, and figure this out. But I couldn't. The door felt magnetic, drawing me closer. I gripped the handle. It was freezing cold, and when I turned it, the forest went silent. No birds, no wind, no rustling leaves. The door clicked open with a slow, reluctant creak, revealing a yawning blackness on the other side. And in that blackness, I swore I heard Evan whisper my name. The blackness beyond the door wasn't empty. It was thick, like stepping into a room filled with smoke. My breath hitched as I crossed the threshold, and the air changed instantly, heavier, colder, laced with a smell I recognized but couldn't place. I turned back for one last look at the forest, but it was gone. There was no forest, no trees, just darkness pressing in like a living thing. Then light flared. I was standing in my house. At least, I thought it was my house. The layout was the same. The narrow hallway leading into the kitchen, the worn carpet under my feet, the familiar creak of the floorboard by the door. But it wasn't right. Something in my gut clenched as I stepped forward. The walls were bare, stripped of the framed photos I'd hung there years ago. No family portraits, no graduation pictures, no Evan grinning with his baseball glove at age 12. In their place were new photos I'd never seen, weddings I didn't attend, vacations I'd never taken, strangers posing in front of landmarks that meant nothing to me. I picked up one of the frames on the hallway table. I was in it, but I didn't recognize the man standing beside me. He was tall, sharply dressed, his hand casually resting on my shoulder like we were old friends. I was smiling, beaming even. My stomach churned. I dropped the photo and stepped into the living room. Everything felt wrong. The furniture was mine, but the fabric colors were off by just a shade, like someone had copied them from memory. The clock ticked too loudly. The air conditioner hummed in a constant droning note that made my teeth ache. I called out, "Hello?" My voice echoed, unnaturally drawn out. No answer. I wandered into the kitchen. The smell was stronger here, and now I recognized it. Old coffee, stale bread, a faint trace of Evan's cologne. My heart clenched. I opened the fridge and stared. It was full, but not with anything I'd bought. Unlabeled jars of black liquid lined the shelves. Packages wrapped in brown paper, faintly damp at the corners, sat piled in the crisper drawer. Something twitched beneath one of the wrappers, and I slammed the door shut. I didn't want to be here. I didn't know how to leave. I turned back toward the hallway and froze. There was someone standing at the far end, just where the shadow swallowed the light. He stepped forward slowly and my knees almost buckled. It was me, but older. Lines cut deeper into his face, his eyes sunken and tired. He wore a faded plaid shirt I recognized from years ago, one Evan had given me for Christmas, but it hung loose on his frame like it didn't fit anymore. He stopped a few feet away, staring at me with a look that wasn't quite anger, wasn't quite pity. "You shouldn't be here," he said. His voice was my own, but hollow. My throat went dry. "What is this place?" He didn't answer. He just stepped closer, close enough for me to see the pale scars around his wrists. He leaned in slightly like he was afraid someone might hear him. "Don't open the red room." My pulse pounded in my ears. What red room?" "You'll know it when you see it," he whispered. His breath was cold against my face. "And when you do, walk away. Don't let it call you." I opened my mouth to ask about Evan, to demand answers, but the lights in the house flickered violently, plunging us into near darkness. When they steadied again, I was alone. The older me was gone, and from somewhere deep in the house, I heard a sound I hadn't heard in years. Evan's voice, faint and distant, calling from the attic. I froze in the hallway, every muscle in my body coiled tight. Evan's voice. It had been years since I'd heard it, yet there it was. Soft, distant, muffled by layers of floorboards and time. Clay. It wasn't possible. Evan? My own voice cracked. Silence. I took a hesitant step forward, then another, my sneakers whispering across the wrong-feeling carpet. The house seemed to bend inward with every movement, the walls narrowing, the ceiling lowering like it was breathing. Clay. Help me. It came from above, the attic. My stomach turned. I hated attics. Ours back home, our real home, was just a cramped triangular space filled with boxes of forgotten things. I hadn't been up there since I was 17, the night Evan died. I felt the memory surge, unbidden and raw. We were only a year apart and inseparable as kids. We'd spent every summer exploring the forest behind our house, inventing games, daring each other to go deeper. But that last year, everything shifted. Evan wanted to leave town after graduation, chase music, chase something. I stayed. That night, a storm just like this one had rolled in. I told him not to go out, but he was stubborn. He wanted to clear his head, he said. I let him go alone. They found his body 2 days later. No signs of foul play, no real answers. Just a broken neck from a fall in the forest. My chest tightened as I climbed the stairs, each creak louder than the last. Evan? I called softly, almost afraid of the answer. Up here. I reached the landing, my eyes darting to the ceiling. There it was, the attic door, a square panel with a pull cord dangling. I hesitated, hands shaking as I reached for it. Something moved behind me. I spun around. Too late. The other me was standing there again, just a step away. His expression was darker now, almost frantic. You can't save him, he said. I stumbled back. What do you mean? You heard him. He's alive. He's not alive. His voice cracked like dry wood. That's not Evan. It's using him, like it uses all of us. I didn't understand. What is this place? Why does it look like my house? He didn't answer. His eyes darted upward toward the attic. Don't open the red room, he whispered again. My pulse hammered. Where is it? You'll know. He stepped closer, gripping my shoulders hard. And when you do, you walk away. Do you understand? Don't let it inside you. Before I could respond, his hand slipped from my shoulders. He backed away slowly, eyes wide with dread. Clay, he said softly, like it was a farewell. And then he was gone, vanishing like smoke. The house groaned, a sound like the foundation shifting. My gaze flicked upward. Clay. Evan's voice again, sharper now. Hold on, I whispered. I grabbed the cord and pulled. The attic door swung open with a reluctant squeal, a ladder unfolding toward me like a tongue from a hungry mouth. Cold air spilled down, laced with that same sweet, cloying scent I'd noticed when I first stepped inside. I climbed. Each rung groaned beneath my weight. My hands were slick with sweat by the time I reached the top. The attic was black as pitch. My flashlight beam swallowed almost instantly. Evan? No answer. Just the sound of something shifting in the corner, soft and deliberate. I swept the light across the attic. Boxes, dust, shadows that didn't belong. Then I saw it, A door. Red. The paint looked wet, glistening in the beam of my flashlight. It didn't belong here. There was no red door in my real attic, and yet this one pulsed faintly, like it was alive. And from behind it, Evan whispered, "Let me out." The attic air was so thick I could barely breathe. It smelled like damp earth and rust, like a grave that had been disturbed. My flashlight beam jittered across old boxes and forgotten furniture as I tried to orient myself, but the attic felt wrong, too big. I had been up here countless times as a kid. It was maybe 20 feet long at most, cluttered with holiday decorations and Evan's old baseball trophies. But now it stretched on, a hallway of shadows and dust that shouldn't exist. "Clay," Evan's voice again, drifting from somewhere ahead. I stepped forward, each footfall echoing too loudly. My flashlight flickered, casting quick flashes of color on the walls. Photos hung everywhere now, frames crooked and dusty. I moved closer, stomach nodding as I realized they weren't random. They were our photos. The first one I looked at was of me and Evan when we were 7, sitting at the edge of the creek behind our house. But Evan wasn't smiling the way I remembered. His head was turned toward me, expression blank, his mouth just slightly open. The next photo, Evan at 13, holding up his first guitar. But in this version, the guitar was snapped clean in half, the strings cutting into his hands like wires. I stepped back, heart hammering. This isn't real. It's the house. It's the forest. "Stop it!" I shouted, my voice swallowed by the attic's endless stretch. I tried to turn around to go back to the ladder, but it was gone. Behind me there was nothing but darkness. "You could have saved me," a voice said softly. I whipped around. Evan was standing a few feet away, or something wearing his face. He looked exactly as he had the last time I saw him, 17, hair damp from the storm, hoodie clinging to his thin frame. But his eyes were too dark, reflecting no light at all. My voice cracked. "Evan, I tried. I didn't know." "You let me go alone," he interrupted. His tone was flat, cold, like a judge delivering a sentence. "You stayed home, warm, safe, while I died out there in the dark." Tears burned the corners of my eyes. I was scared. "I thought you'd be fine. I didn't think." "You never think," he said, stepping closer. "Not about me. Not about anyone." I stumbled back, shaking my head, but the attic shifted with me. The floor warped, sloping downward like a funhouse, forcing me toward the far end where the red door loomed. It was closer now, bigger. The paint glistened wetly in the flashlight beam, as though it had been freshly coated in blood. "Evan," I whispered, desperate. "If you're real, please, tell me what's behind it." He tilted his head, a slow, unnatural motion. "Everything you've buried, everything you don't want to see." The words crawled down my spine like insects. "Don't open it," another voice said sharply. I spun. The older version of myself was there, face pale, trembling. He looked worse than before, his clothes torn, his hands raw and bleeding. "This is how it feeds," he said, voice hoarse. "It makes you think you can fix it, that you can undo what you've done, but you can't. And if you open that door..." A sound erupted from behind the red door, drowning him out. A pounding. Something on the other side was trying to get out. Evan stepped toward me, voice soft again. "Help me, Clay. Just open it. Please. I'm so cold." I pressed my hands over my ears. "Don't!" the older me shouted, lunging toward me. but the floor buckled violently, splitting us apart. He tumbled backward into the dark as I stumbled forward, landing hard on my knees in front of the red door. It was pulsing now, and the handle was warm. The handle was warm, almost feverish, as though something on the other side was alive and waiting. My hand trembled as I wrapped my fingers around it. "Don't," the older me had said, but his voice was gone now. Only Evans remained. "Open it, Clay, please. I'm so cold." I twisted the handle and the door swung inward without a sound. The air rushed out at me, wet, rotten, electric. I staggered forward, nearly choking on the smell of mildew and copper. My flashlight beam cut across the threshold and dissolved. There was no floor, no walls, no attic anymore. I stepped inside. The space wasn't a room. It was a world. The ground beneath me was soft and wet, sucking at my shoes. Around me, trees stretched high, their trunks warped and twisting, but their branches didn't touch. The sky above was a pale gray ceiling, rippling faintly like the surface of a lake. And there were doors, hundreds of them, black like the one in the forest, red like the one I had just opened, white, blue, wood grain, every shape and color imaginable scattered across the landscape like gravestones. Some stood upright, some lay half buried in the mud. A few were open, revealing glimpses of other lives flickering like dying film reels. I recognized the voices coming from them. My mother, crying the night of Evan's funeral, the girl I'd loved in high school, telling me I was too closed off. Evan, laughing, alive, calling me into the forest one last time. I stumbled forward, heart racing, drawn toward a single door standing in the distance. It was identical to the red door I'd just stepped through. Clay. Evan was there, standing beside it. He looked almost human, but there was a hollowness in his eyes, a faint shimmer beneath his skin like something was wearing him from the inside. "You found me," he said softly. I tried to speak, but my throat closed. Tears blurred my vision. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I should have gone with you that night. I should have—" "It's not your fault," he interrupted, and for a moment I believed him. He reached for my hand. His grip was icy cold. "You can stay," he whispered. "We can be together again, like we used to be." I glanced around. More doors were opening now, spilling pale light across the landscape. Shapes were crawling out, humanoid but wrong, their bodies contorted by shadows. They moved toward me slowly, their voices low and coaxing. "Stay. Don't go back. Fix it." I felt the weight of all my regrets pressing in. Every choice, every moment I wished I could redo. If I stayed, maybe I could undo it. Maybe Evan would really be alive. But then I saw the older version of myself. He was kneeling in the mud just beyond the red door, eyes sunken, lips moving soundlessly. He looked like he'd been here for decades, hollowed out by the forest's promise. And I understood. This wasn't a place where you fix things. This was where you were consumed by them. Evan's grip tightened painfully. His smile split wider, too wide, revealing teeth that weren't teeth at all, but thin, jagged splinters of black wood. "Don't leave me, Clay," he hissed, his voice dropping into something inhuman. "You're all I have left." I yanked my hand free and stumbled back toward the door I'd entered through. But it was gone. The red door had vanished. All that remained was the forest, the doors, and the voices whispering promises of everything I'd ever lost. The forest of doors stretched on forever, I ran until my lungs burned, but the ground never changed. Mud sucked at my shoes with every step, roots coiling around my ankles as though trying to drag me down. The doors towered higher and higher, looming like ancient monuments. Some swung open as I passed, spilling flickers of my life onto the muddy ground. There I was, staying home the night Evan died, too comfortable to follow him into the storm. There I was, dropping out of college after one bad semester, convinced I'd fail anyway. There I was, pushing people away, drowning in work, never calling my mom back. Each moment hit me like a punch to the chest. Stop running. I skidded to a halt. Evan was ahead of me, waiting. He looked the way I remembered again, 17 and alive, the wind tugging at his hoodie. For a second I believed it, really believed it was him. "I can take it all away," he said softly. "All the pain, all the regret. You don't have to feel it anymore. Just open a door and stay." I shook my head, choking on tears. "This isn't real. You're not real." His face twisted, lips pulling back over splintered teeth. "What's real doesn't matter," he hissed, his voice deepening into something inhuman. "What matters is that you're mine now." He lunged. I turned and ran, but the forest shifted around me. Doors slammed shut, walls of trees rising from the ground like blackened ribs, funneling me in one direction. My heart pounded as I realized where it was pushing me. The red door. It was waiting at the end of a narrow path, glowing faintly like a wound in the world. I skidded to a stop, glancing behind me. Shapes were emerging from the shadows, dozens of them. Some looked like me, some looked like Evan. Some were unrecognizable, crawling on all fours, their faces blank and smooth. "Please," I whispered, not sure who I was begging. The red door creaked open. I staggered backward, but there was nowhere to go. The forest pressed in from all sides, voices overlapping in a deafening chorus. "Stay. You belong here. Fix it. Save him." And then I saw him, the older version of myself, standing just beyond the threshold of the red door. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow, but he smiled faintly when he saw me. "Don't fight it," he said gently. "It's easier if you stop fighting." I shook my head, clutching my skull as the voices drilled into me. "I just want to go home." "You are home," he whispered. The ground gave way beneath my feet. I was falling, through the forest, through the doors, through memories I didn't want to see. Evan falling in the storm, my hands gripping the windowsill, too afraid to follow him. My voice, weak, whispering, "He'll be fine," to myself over and over. The fall stopped with a bone-jarring impact. I opened my eyes and found myself in my backyard. The forest was quiet. My house stood where it always had. Morning sunlight warmed my skin. I almost believed I'd escaped. Then I saw the black wooden door standing at the tree line, exactly where I'd found it. And I realized I couldn't move. My feet were rooted in the earth. My hands had become branches, stretching upward into a canopy that swallowed the sky. I tried to scream, but only the sound of wind through leaves escaped my mouth. The forest had me now. I was part of it. And as the black door creaked open for the next lost soul, I heard my voice whisper through the trees, "Don't open the red room.